Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shows, desolators, peasants, vassals, minions. And I mean that, especially on a day like this last week in Ferguson, Missouri. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And a hat tip to my friend Bert Powers, who's out in Missouri. And this is in his neck of the woods. And I know he's watching this closely. And so what we have here is a glimpse of the dark path that the United States has been put on by our government, our paranoid government, and our paranoid leaders. And I'm not just talking about Obama. I'm talking about all of them. Because this police state that we have now has been created not over years, but decades. And they all have their hands in their cookie jar. And we're seeing all the results of this. And we've seen bits and pieces of this before. The takeover of Boston by a small army. It was certainly a glimpse of the future. And we see these encounters with paramilitary units all over the country on a daily basis. And we see policemen who look like a domestic occupation army, which is what they have become. And not only that, we have this us and them adversarial relationship that's been created between the police and the citizenry, that's been purposely created by this paranoid government and its policies. And the fish rots from the head down. And we see that in this case. We have a morally bankrupt government, and why would we not have a morally bankrupt police force? And I know there's some sectors who find this kind of judgment on the police a little harsh, but unfortunately, I used to suspect that maybe perhaps there was an element of rogue cops to this, but when you look at the bulk of the material that appears out there on a daily basis of encounters with police, it just adds up and adds up. And then when we see a concentration, and that's why whenever I do videos about these police incidents, whenever we see an amazing, stunning, astonishing amount of firepower being brought to bear against citizens for relatively minor infractions, these are the ones we need to focus in on, because it shows that it is a culture. It is not necessarily rogue cops. It is a culture that is being created. And the militarization of the police has everything to do with that as well. And so like I say, in Ferguson, Missouri, what this represents to me is we are staring face to face at what the possibilities are for the future of the United States. It's unfortunate that it is even our present. And I say that in the sense that we're getting a glimpse. This is only a glimpse of what the possibilities are. What if something really happens? What if there is a breakdown in American society? What if there is some resistance? What if the economic situation gets so bad that we have these kind of occurrences in all major American cities? Is this the kind of scenario we need to unfold? Is this the kind of a government that has this kind of reaction to its citizenry? Is this the kind of environment we want? So the events everyone, of course, is familiar with. 18-year-old young black man apparently walking in the middle of the street instead of the sidewalk. Jaywalking unarmed. And I've heard some reports that he was shot 8 times. I'm not sure if that's confirmed. And there's also witnesses who claim he was already on his knees on the ground in the middle of the street. And you have a shot in the back. And of course the police will use the usual frame-ups. They'll have a toxicology report that says he was on drugs, or they'll say he was resisting arrest, trying to take the gun away from the police officer or something. That seems to be the standard excuses. But for anyone to expect to end up dead over jaywalking would be comical if it wasn't so tragic. And the scenario that we have now that's unfolded because of that event is surreal. We have reporters being accosted and arrested. We have elected officials being detained. We have snipers on building tops and vehicle tops. We have armored vehicles. The police are completely and utterly militarized, and it looks like it could be somewhere in Baghdad. And This is a town, too, of 21,000 residents and only 53 police officers, and yet they can muster this small military force to confront these citizens. And I don't want to let necessarily the citizenry off the hook here. I've had a discussion with a very good friend of mine, and we already discussed the idea that one of the unfortunate aspects of this is that it reinforces stereotypes that a lot of white Americans already have about the black community. And that's very unfortunate indeed. And having seen some scenes from Ferguson, I have to concur with that. See a picture of a guy riding through a store looting on a bicycle with a shotgun. That just reinforces the very, very, very worst stereotypes. But as I always say, I insist it's not necessarily a racial thing, it's a class thing. And we can see white crowds in lower classes in various urban centers around the country that exhibit the same kind of behavior, and we've seen it before. So, but unfortunately, it's always easy to point out others, and in this case, we're going to see that. Oh, look at the black community. The one criticism I'll give of the black community is seeing these bootlicker opportunists like Al Sharpton go down there and exploit it so shamelessly and so overtly. All my regulars know that's one of my biggest pet peeves. I have so many pet peeves. I have a petting zoo. And I have so many pet peeves because of people like Al Sharpton. And bootlickers and pandering opportunists are the worst of the worst. In a cesspool of snakes like Washington, D.C., they still stand out. And so Al Sharpton, now a media figure, goes down there and just milks it for all it's worth. And also plays up a lot of stereotypes about bootlickers. And then to make matters worse, we have the no autopsy report revealed yet. And even worse, the police department refusing to reveal the name of the police officer. And they certainly have no right to do that. And I know there might be some fears about his family, but as the citizenry knows, you take your risks for the actions you take. So I guess that's all I want to say about Ferguson right now. It's astonishing to see these images in American City, and like I say, a lot of people who are paying attention were anticipating scenarios just like this, and everything's been set in place for it to happen. So just in case anybody had any doubts, welcome to Police State 2014 USA, and a glimpse of what we're going to see a lot more of in the future, unless somebody decides to change the trajectory. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.